I'm back. I am super excited to have Dee Parker Attwood on today, who is Australian Hairdresser of the Year, 2 times in a row, actually. So I had a funny little serendipitous moment with her, and we had the AHIA Hair Awards in Sydney, which were on and off and on and off, and I ended up being in Sydney but didn't end up going to the awards and had major FOMO when I was watching online, trying to watch online, I guess, because the stream wouldn't go through. And I was watching being like, oh, I'm missing these amazing moments to start chatting with people and trying to get them on the podcast. And anyway, as fate had it, my flight home was a flight that Dee and the Weaselman crew were on, and I was sat behind her. So being the not so shy person that I am, I gave her a little tap on the shoulder and said congratulations, and we got chatting, and I thought it was my prime moment to hone in and get her on the podcast. So I asked if she would like to continue riding the wave of the night and come on and talk to us about the win and about her career. So, not only did we talk about shooting the collection and all of the tips that she has for people when they are going to do that and how to get to Australian Hairdresser of the Year and the steps that it takes, and that there's a lot more than just the photos. There's actually the written submissions and things that you need to do to be involved and a part of the industry. So I thought that was really cool for people to hear. And we just started at the beginning, as I always do, of how she got into the industry and made her way from New Zealand to Australia. What's next? She's a salon owner. And yeah, I just really loved hearing her story. And I felt like that plane ride was a bit of fate. I don't think she knows, but after I was sitting behind her, before I even asked her to be on the podcast, I do these little things that I'm like, if I start writing questions, it'll put it out into the universe that she'll come on. So I had a couple things that I was writing on my phone while I was sitting behind them on the plane, of thinking of what I'd love to ask if she came on. So some of that was if it was just as exciting to win the second time as it was the first time, like which one was more exciting, and you'll hear her talk us through that. And also what this past year led to this collection. The collection is stunning and beautiful, and I'll include it obviously in the Instagram feed for the podcast for this episode. But I loved the collection, and I was lucky she sent me all the details when we were about to record of the background of the collection, and that being something bright and cheerful was what we all needed. And it is just a stunning collection. I loved it from the moment I saw it. So I am so grateful and privileged to get to chat with her. And I hope that you really can listen and learn and be inspired on how to get the next generation and get new hairdressers into this industry and knowing how much we can do. So enjoy this chat. Okay, today I'm just going to swap our view here so that we're both in it for YouTube. I am with Australian Hairdresser of the Year, Dee Parker Atwood. Welcome.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you, Crystal. Thanks for having me.
This has been good. I've been on a little mini break, I'd say. I had a bit of time off, and I think as soon as all the award stuff was happening, I'm like, you are going to be my perfect segue back into it, and just to ride the wave of this exciting moment for you.
And how funny that we saw each other on the plane.
Oh my God, that was just meant to be. So I
I
went
know.
to Sydney, but I didn't end up going to the awards. It was everything was last minute and crazy. And by the time our table had all separated, I was like, I'm just going to spend the time with my friends. And serendipity had it that I was sitting behind you on the plane home.
I know it was crazy. I mean, we were actually looking back, we were really lucky to even get there. The way that Sydney is
Oh
2 weeks
my God, I
later,
know. I
forget it,
know.
the
Yeah,
awards would have been off. So really,
totally.
and everything just ran in our favor and we got to have them and it was a really amazing night. So
Oh, good. Well, before we get into that, I feel like what I like to do is start from the beginning, and then we'll work our way into this like peak of your career, maybe, or a big moment. But maybe because you and I don't have this relationship, that maybe you know my story, I thought I might share a little bit of what I'm trying to do with this platform with you.
Great.
And
Tell
I
me.
think that
Yeah.
it sounds quite
Excellent.
aligned. When I was reading through, I get everyone to send me their bio before I record. And something that really stuck out for me was that your purpose and passion is to attract young people to the industry. And what I really felt like I wanted to do during my time in lockdown was figure out what my next step was for myself. And when I was thinking about those things, I thought, I have these dreams and these visions of getting to that next step, but I sometimes feel like I'm not qualified to get there. Like, as in this just a hairdresser thing, which is this horrible feeling that I think we can often get as hairdressers, that we didn't go to university or we didn't do something further, that we won't understand different avenues within the industry. And so,
Well, that's so true.
like it holds you back a little bit thinking like, oh, I'd love to get into salon ownership, but I don't know anything about business or, all these things that from learning and talking to people, I've learned that nobody knows what they're doing. You
Well,
figure it out as you go.
absolutely. And I guess is if you're passionate, and I always say to this to everyone, what is it? People ask me, what does it take to be a good hairdresser? And I'm like, you have to love hair.
Hmm.
If you love hair and love doing hair, then everything else can be taught. That
Yeah.
is something that can't be taught. It's something that you just feel
Yeah,
that you
totally.
want to. You look at somebody and you think, I would love to do this on them. This would look, they would look amazing like that. Or hairdressing is not a 9 to 5 job. And even for me, I come home from work and that's my brain is still ticking over and I'm thinking about hair.
Yeah.
I've got the worst attention span. I can't even watch Netflix or watch something in
Because you're
completion.
looking at the hair in the shelf.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram looking at hairdressers overseas because I know that someone's doing, Fashion Week is on in Paris or something like that. And it's just like unless you don't, if that's a great place to start. If you love doing hair and you want to do hair, then everything else can be taught. And I truly believe that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times people don't realize the broadness of the industry, that it isn't just working behind the chair, which is an amazing element of it too. And there's people who have no desire for more. That fills their cup enough that they love going into the salon. But I knew for me that was never going to be the only avenue I wanted in the industry, but I didn't know kind of where to go and navigate into the next thing. So these conversations have really broadened, and I've had people on from, yeah, international and people who are just starting out and really had great success, and people 40 years in or 50 years in, some of them that really had such insight. So I wanted to create a platform that I hope to get into the colleges or the beauty schools to show them the potential and diversity that the industry can have. So I think you're a prime person to have on and contribute to that.
I know, and it's amazing, like the young people of today, they don't, people are not considering hairdressing. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't had an apprentice, we've had an ad for an apprentice up for 6 months and very limited response. And I don't
Yeah.
understand, why it's such an amazing industry. It can take you so many different avenues, like you said,
Yeah.
and I look around my salon, we've got 24 staff. Some hairdressers are just happy going to work, doing their clients and leaving.
Yeah.
That's they're happy with that. They don't want
Yeah.
any more. They don't want to be on stage. They don't want to, do competitions like I do. They don't want to do creative. They just want to make women look beautiful and men look beautiful and go home. And then there's other hairdressers where that is not enough. And there's
Yeah.
just something inside them that, whether they want to get into session work, and set trends rather than do the trends,
Yeah.
or whether what they want to head down the competition route like myself and many others. So there's certainly many ways that people can head, and it's a great industry.
Did you always want to be a hairdresser? How did this happen for you? And were you always like I always am in awe of people who do collections. And, I really got my foot in the door in my salon at home. But then once I moved to Australia, I was working alongside Charlene. And that's when my mind was like, oh my God, like she could look at a stick and be like, that stick is the perfect inspiration, for this thing. And my brain just does not work like that. So was that always creative for you? And then how did it translate into getting into hair?
Well, actually, I'm from a family of hairdressers, and that's
Ah,
actually quite a common. It's a common thread in the industry. My mum, my auntie,
oh,
were hairdressers.
wow.
So when I grew up, my school holidays were spent at the salon in New Plymouth, New Zealand, with my mum, waiting for her to finish work. And she also had a little salon at home, which God forbid back then, but she had a salon at home. So I used to like go out there and play with my dolly heads when I was growing up and cut, with their scissors, cut their hair.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
so
love
yeah,
it.
it's basically there's something that I identify about the smell of
Mm,
salons, like, isn't there?
yes.
Just,
Oh my
I
God.
grew,
Yeah.
yeah, and walking in as a kid, it was my happy place. Perm lotion, hairspray, setting lotion, the smell of the woman under the dryer with the rollers in, and and when I walk into our salon, I haven't been there, I've been on holiday, and walk back in, that smell, I don't know, it
Yeah.
just makes me happy. It's
It's like when
yeah.
you
So I
go
was
home or something. I don't know if you go home and it smells like your house or like your best friend's
yes,
house, it smells like that, but you become
yeah,
accustomed to your own. I completely agree. When we went back to work after those 2 weeks, I was like, the smell, like,
the smell. There
yeah.
was just something about it.
Oh, I know.
So I think I was ingrained in me from a very early age that, and mum knew. I mean, I was doing haircuts at 12 years old
Wow.
and charging, like $3 to $5 for them. So, and all my friends, some of
You're
them were
charging for them.
disastrous. I was charging for them, and like, by 16, I had a little mini clientele going on. So I think, I always knew that I was going to be a hairdresser. There was no other industry for me, and I started my apprenticeship. I was a tea and tidy,
Hmm.
I started that when I was 14 years old at a local salon, and my mum said to me, the only thing that I really want for you is that I don't want to train you. And
Wow.
looking back, I'm really grateful with that, because she said, let's have a mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, so she actually rung at the time New Plymouth. There's an amazing woman called Lindsay Loveridge who had 4 salons called Headquarters.
Okay.
She's an institution in New Zealand. She's an incredible trainer. She trained Patrick Cameron as well. And so, yeah, she basically took me on, and that's where it all began. And yeah, it was a crazy, crazy upbringing. Yeah, with the surrounded by hairdressers, and then going into that salon. And Lindsay's so regimented with her training, and I'm such an
Hmm.
artist, so I struggled with at
Mm.
first with being organized, and being super, the paperwork
Story
side
of
of
my
the
life.
apprenticeship. Yeah. The paperwork side of the apprenticeship, having all your equipment clean and tidy and ready to go. And, because I just wanted to get into it and learn and do hair.
Yeah.
So,
There's
but
always
once
one of us in the salon that's the messy one.
always,
That's
always. And
me.
it's funny, it is, it's so true. But now I'm really pedantic about my tools. And if a comb goes missing or a clip goes missing, I'm like having a heart, where is everything? Who's took it?
Yeah.
But back then, I guess we were a kid. And, I had a girl trial with me on Saturday who was 17 years old, and she looked totally overwhelmed. And when you're a 17, 16, 15, you're really just a kid. So it's all just part of that learning process, isn't it? To become,
And I think
who you
that
need to
would
be.
be what would make you quite a good mentor, and to be in that position that you're teaching the apprentices coming in to work for you, because you were that person that was not fully involved, like understanding every aspect of it, being like, how am I going to be able to do this? I'm not organized, or those things come, and you don't have to have every piece exactly like you said. As long as you have that drive and that want to be doing hair, the rest can be factored in.
If you get that, I always say, that aha feeling when you've finished doing someone's hair, and when you're finishing it, that you can feel the body language of the client, that they that they love it, and you love it, and it's beautiful and healthy and shiny and looks gorgeous, and that's a feeling that is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. I
So,
felt like
as
for a
long,
long time I didn't have that feel. Like I always wanted to do hair. I had no plan B. Like that was it. From I was cutting hair, same as you, on a hill at recess, doing that.
yeah,
And then when I got into it, it didn't come so naturally to me. One of my girlfriends was in my course and she was like the best at it. And I was like, oh no, like
yeah, you had to work harder.
what if I'm
Yeah, and
not
some
good at it? And
good.
but it can be, those things come now. And I remember doing foils and being like, is this ever not going to take 10 hours? Like, when am I ever going to understand where I'm putting them? And those things do come,
Exactly.
and it just takes a bit of time.
And I do a lot of training, and I see the frustration in
Yeah.
people when they don't get things straight away. And I sort of look, it's, Rome wasn't built in a day. You've got to go through the process of, you do it once, it's terrible. And then slowly you keep practicing and you get better. And, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Another thing with young people, what's really funny is, and I forget too, is when I look around at my younger self, is that really they want to party, and that sort of,
They're
for
in a good
hairdressers,
industry.
they do, and it's like, they come to work on Tuesday, I look around, they all look exhausted. But at their age, I was exactly the same. So,
Mm,
it was like you work really hard, but then you play really, really hard as you
yeah.
get older. And when you get in a committed relationship, you don't need to go out as much and party. And that's when you really become committed to the industry, I reckon. So when you're
Yeah.
young, you've got to be young, and you've got to, do what you need to do. And, it's just funny just watching everyone make the mistakes that I made.
Have the fun. Well, that again
Yeah, the
makes you
fun.
understanding, right? So,
Yeah,
how long
absolutely.
were you working in that salon in New Zealand? And is that what opened your eyes to competition work, or had your family been involved in that? How did it kind of take to the next level for you then?
Well, so even when I was there, so we used to have the regional competitions in New Plymouth and around New Zealand. I was like now I was pretty obsessed with competing. So I used to every weekend I used to jump in my car and put models in the car and drive around New Zealand and compete in the local regional competitions. So I think I had like 108 first, second, and third places. I
Oh
won
my
Apprentice of the
God.
Year as well for the whole of New Zealand.
High
So
achiever. I love it.
yeah. So I was even then I was like always really addicted to doing competitions. I
Cool.
love the excitement of the because they were all live. So
Yeah.
nowadays there's a lot of collection-based competitions.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, there's still a lot of live competitions where you take a model, and because I'm quite a confident person. I'm not really that nervy. Some people collapsed on the competition floor
Yeah.
because they knew that everyone was watching them and the time pressure, and you could see them shaking when they were cutting. I was like that for a couple of minutes, and then I just got into doing the hair, and so
Yeah.
that really gave me. We were encouraged to do them. It was
Yeah.
compulsory to enter at least one event. And in those days, you could make things compulsory. Nowadays, with workplace and have you can't, it's a little bit harder to make things
Yeah.
compulsory. But there, those days were compulsory. So yeah, I just once I got that whiff of competing and then winning, or not even winning, but losing and learning from what I did wrong, and then wanting to get it right the next time. Then I was basically the addiction started. So off I
Oh,
went.
good. Love it. And then how did you end up over here in Australia?
Well, what happened was is that I knew that I had to that I'd done as much as I could in New Zealand.
Hmm.
I'd become a judge at that point, so then I became a judge of judging those competitions, and I knew that I wanted to further my skills. So I originally thought that I'd go to London. So I was going to stop in Melbourne. I had a boyfriend at the time. I was going to stop in Melbourne, but he had commitments in New Zealand, so he couldn't move to London. So we agreed to move to Melbourne and then see if we could move to London from there. So when I arrived, did a lot of research. I had the top 4 salons in Melbourne. I went for an interview at all of them. 3 are no longer around, and one that was then
Ah.
back that was 22 years ago was Weaselman. And I don't know. I just walked in, and I felt like that was the home for me because I looked around and it was just
As
full
you
of
should.
was yeah, yeah.
I
And
love
it
when
was
that happens.
I did an interview and I showed them all the competitions, and I was like at Eva Beaver. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it was just I looked around the salon. There was lots of glamour, lots of blondes, and I just met David Weaselman,
Hmm.
who's now my business partner and my best friend. I met David, and he interviewed me, and I just knew that he was an amazing hair cutter, and that he could teach me so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I started. I worked there for 7 years as I was, and then became their best staff member, the most productive staff member, and then I became a partner.
Wow.
7, so I got
And was
offered a
that something
partnership.
that you had envisioned for yourself? Like, had you wanted to own a salon or be involved in that way? Or was it something that was presented to you and you were like, oh, I didn't even like, how did
Well,
that?
I knew then that I wanted to get in. I'd started to get into doing collections, and I knew how expensive they were. And
Mm,
I thought, as working as a staff member, I just couldn't afford to do them. So
yeah.
I thought if I was a partner, then I could, had a say in the business, and then I could get a budget for it so that I could move to that next step. So that was one of the main reasons. And obviously, like anything, it's a natural progression. If you work really hard for a salon, and then eventually there has to be a reward at the end of that, and I worked there night and day, and I was one of the busiest hairdressers there, so it was a natural. They didn't want to lose me, and I think they felt that I would go off and do my own thing anyway at some
Yeah.
point, because I wanted that control, and also I wanted to take on managerial skills, and I wanted to teach the apprentices, and I wanted to do more partner roles.
Yeah.
So they offered it to me before they lost me basically. So
Amazing. That's so interesting. I didn't know that until I got your bio kind of through. I didn't realize that you were part owner. That's so interesting. Love that.
yes, it's
And I
good.
think that the big thing about the competition industry and that what maybe can deter people is the budget. Like it's a
Yeah.
huge thing. So how do you kind of I guess for you, what was the point of doing them and what makes it be like, okay, I am going to put this amount of my money into this collection and what's the reward of winning these titles, I guess, for the payback of the cost of
Well,
the
that's right. I mean, you win these awards and you get nothing financially back. So it's a huge
That's why
outlay.
I always found
Yeah.
it like, why are you guys doing this? Like, what's
Yeah,
the
it's a huge, so basically you're in the red the whole time you're in the red.
yeah.
But then they provide you with opportunities, and that is where, you can make extra money from it to pay, for your awards. I'm a national ambassador for Swashcock Professional,
Okay.
and I'm, hair director at Brisbane Fashion Week. I just did a collaboration last weekend with Romance Was Born in Sydney, on a farm where I had like free range over the hair. It was the most amazing experience. And all of these things, I would never get the opportunities, nor would I be
Mhm.
paid for had I not won the award. So it provides opportunities. And I think, but, and I say this to everyone, you cannot start by going straight into Australian Hairdresser of the Year.
Yeah.
There is a natural progression. And you have to start at the very bottom and work your way up through all the states and the apprentice of the year through to the creative force, and then through to the state, and then through to so on and so on. So and really, even before that, you need to start at the local, like the HBIA competitions or the color trophy, or where it's just one shot. American Crew has one shot. There's Weller Trend Vision. There's all these competitions that's just one shot, or
Yeah.
they're done live, and they're a lot more affordable, and that's how you get your name out there.
That's
because
such a
because if
good
you're going to
tip.
go, it is such a good tip, and we've all
Yeah.
done it. Looking back at all the past winners, I remember being on a competition floor next to Joey on one side of me and Lyndall on the other, and we
Yeah.
were doing live models back at HBIA or IHS back in those days, 15 years ago, and we all used to do those live competitions, and that's how we learned the whole process of model selection, planning the hairstyle, planning the outfit, planning the concept, practice, and then your
Totally.
execution. Yeah, and that's, rather than just I want to do a collection 6 photos. That's a big ask for someone
Totally.
with no
Yeah.
experience. So if you start, at the one shot, with and learn what it takes and what you need to do, I think that's a great idea.
I think that's really, really good. That's great hot tip.
Yep.
Now,
Yeah.
that's going through the perks and all those things. Now, I would love to, obviously, you have just won Australian Hairdresser of the Year, and this is the second time. So, is there like a limit on how many times you can win and enter that? Like, can you forever be the Australian Hairdresser of the Year now? Like,
Well,
keep going?
look, the all-time best is 6, I think, and that's Shane Hemming, and Frank Apopoulos
Yeah.
has won 5 times after him, and that's across the 2 different platforms, Hair Expo, which is now renamed and under Linda's Mocha brand, which is AHIA, and then AHFA, which are the ones that are coming up. They close next month. I'm entering those as well.
Amazing.
Look, I don't know. I'm just going to keep going. I think that we were talking about this morning, actually, when you are really active, you have to do a submission. So it's not just the collection, it's the submission, and
Yeah.
that's what you do for the industry. So obviously, if you have a break or take a couple of years off, your submission is very weak. So you're actually better, if you're going to go for it, you're better just to keep cracking year after year after year, because your submission of all the opportunities and the last competitions gets better and better.
Yeah.
So,
So when you submit that, you're saying you have to not only do you have to make this amazing collection, you have to show what you're contributing to the
to
industry.
the industry, yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think maybe people wouldn't know that it's not just that you film or shoot these photos, you have to write a whole thing about it that is also another layer that's could be quite challenging for someone. Maybe you have this skill of I can create these amazing avant-garde shoots, but I don't have the verbal ability or or the um confidence to be doing things externally as well. So that's a huge thing to understand, that not only did you put this beautiful collection together, you've done all these other things on the side as well.
And that's right. And I remember when I won Hair Expo Australian Hairdresser of the Year in 2019, you find out your scores afterwards. And my photos won pretty much across the board, but my
Yeah.
submission got 4th. So I knew from looking at my points, so out of the 6 finalists, my submission was 4th.
Wow.
So I knew I had some work to do. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to take on some roles. And that's when I became the president of HBIA, which is now ARA Hair and Beauty,
Yes.
which is a voluntary position, which is
Okay.
quite time consuming. But I do enjoy that because, I'm about to have a meeting this afternoon. I'm going to run the student apprentice barber of the year. I've decided I'm going to run that competition for Melbourne.
Oh, cool.
later in the year. So I get to do things like that, which is amazing. And that I think really helps with your submission, taking on
Yeah.
voluntary roles. I also mentored people that didn't work for me. So girls that were, in competition salon that needed help with their submissions
Yeah.
and their photo shoots. I helped them with their hair and was just like a consultant for them. Again, things like that really, really help. Yeah, so just giving back to the industry, I guess, is it's really important. And if we didn't do that, if we didn't do all the voluntary stuff and help, then I think the industry would be in a much worse place. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's really important for people to know that something that sometimes bothered me within the industry was like all the stuff that we do for free. I think sometimes when you're
yeah,
an apprentice coming up, being like, well, oh my God, I've been at this shoot for 14 hours. And, what other job do people not get paid in? But it's about the fact that that's what gets you to the next point. Like, I don't get paid doing these interviews, and it's not even a thought in my mind. Like, I just love doing this. I love talking. I love hearing everybody's story and doing that. And to you, I feel like that's probably how you feel about doing the mentoring. It's just something that you're
yeah. It's
happy
part of you.
happy to do. It doesn't
And
seem
it's like
like a
it's
job.
such a rewarding to help someone and then they have success. Amber Lee, I helped her. She wanted to enter the Hot Shots team, and
Yes.
Amber
And
Lee,
what?
yeah, and she actually won and got a place on the Hot Shots team. So that was like a huge thing. I helped her put her application. I gave her opportunities to work on stage with me so that she could have content to use for her application for the Hot Shot team. And I went to her photo shoot. I helped her on the day, and I didn't do the hair. I just helped her to
Yeah.
try and get her
Bring
vision
it
that
to
she
life.
wanted from here to there,
Yeah.
just through talking and showing and things like that. But we've all seen that on Instagram, that meme that says, I'm the hairdresser I am today from all the years of assisting, and
Mhm.
it is so true. It really is. Every time you actually give your time and go somewhere, you learn something, and
Yeah.
that actually just all goes into your brain, and at some point that will come out again, the skills that you saw and learned. So
100%. I
yeah,
would go be like, oh yeah, I'll just come do, because for me, I specialize in color, right? So being at the shoots sometimes for me, I'm not really that helpful being on on a shoot.
yeah,
I had
yeah.
Sharon Blaine ask me to go help her on a shoot one time, and I was like, I'm happy to come, but I don't think you do you know that I'm not going to be of any help to you? But it is just
Yeah,
extra hands of someone to go get the lunch and the coffee or hold the weave while you braid it, like whatever. Those extra hands make such a difference on days like that. And it's true, you just get to observe. For me to see somebody like her or any of the shoots I've gotten to go on, to just watch how it operates, you pick little tidbits out of everything. You're so right.
it's so true. Sharon Blaine is, well, she's an amazing woman. I really adore
Yeah.
her, and she's so supportive of hairdressers and especially female hairdressers, and she's always such a wonderful,
Yeah.
really, she's a really nice person to be
I've
involved
been
with. I
really
love her.
fortunate to have her in my corner, which has been nice from moving
Mm.
over here. She's always been somebody when I moved that has, if I needed something or I didn't know if something was quite right, I'd ring her. To be able to have her has been really helpful for me navigating my way
And it's
over
funny
here.
because what she does, she has the fundamental, like to her, the absolute essential basics of styling hair. Like
Yeah.
everything, when you watch her, she's the queen of the back combing. All the skills that then, if you're going to go and do, you have to learn everything that she does because she's the queen of it. But then you put it on a bit of a more modern spin for your collections. But it's really what she's taught you that you just recapture.
Yeah. Now, do you think that winning the second time is different than winning the first time? Like, what's the difference, I guess, between the 2019 win and the 2021 win? Is it like less exciting, more exciting?
Probably about the same amount of excitement. It
Yeah.
was, I was so, I mean, it's a terrible sitting through all those other awards. And, like
Hate it
when
because you
you're up for
last.
the, yeah, and it was on at 11 o'clock. So we got there at 7. It's a very long,
Yeah.
long night. And every time I turned around, my husband and my business partner had taken my glass of wine away and put water there. So just
I was
in
thinking
case.
when I said to you on the
Yeah.
plane, I was like, you have to go do the morning show in the morning. Weren't you dying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I didn't know that I was going to win. You never
Yeah.
know. And this is the thing. It's like, people say, did you know that you were going to? I'm like, no, no way. There was
Yeah,
like
you can't.
any one of us could have won. And I've seen that so many times in that room where I think, okay, that person's going to win because that's the one that I like and they don't win and someone else wins. So really, you just don't know until they call out your name. You have no idea. So every time you go there, I mean, I guess I've been there before.
Mm.
But it was still really, really nerve wracking. And it is
Both
as
times.
all the, I mean, Charlene won, she would have felt the same.
God,
And just
she's coming on
the
next
thought of
week. I'm reining in all the
making
winners to get on. I'm
winners.
like, this is gonna be my next role.
It's not just the winning, it's the making the speech. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, and you just don't want to forget any. I forgot my husband this year.
Oh.
I forgot to thank him, and I always forget
Classic.
someone. And so, it's just it's all a lot of pressure on the heart, to be honest. But it was, yeah. And we didn't even know that we were going to get there. For 2 weeks, we were told that from Victoria, we had to nominate someone to say our speech for us. So in my mind, I didn't think I was going until the
Yeah.
day before.
Well, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it was like. I'm like, I have 2 nails on. I haven't had my hair
Yeah.
done in 2 years.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm not going. I'm just not going. I don't have a dress.
Yeah. And we were in lockdown, right? For the
Well,
first
that's
2
why
weeks
I was
leading
like,
up.
I'm not going, like looking like a ragamuffin.
And if I thought that I was going, I probably wouldn't have eaten all that extra chocolate at night watching Netflix. And do you know what I mean? I would have been on a different regime. And like in my mind, I
Oh
didn't think
my
I was going. So
God.
yeah, when I got to go, I was like, oh my God, it was all a lot. The morning show was a huge privilege. It was
Yeah.
probably one of the coolest things I've ever got to do. Linda got that opportunity for the Australian. I mean, I don't think there's been an Australian winner on the morning show for many years, and that was all her PR company. So Joanne Coles organised that through Lily Blue, and that was a really surreal experience. So I had I think 4 drinks over the whole night, and that was one that was
the limit.
25 glasses of water, because I wanted to be fresh for that, because I knew I had a responsibility to Linda. I wanted to announce the brand and AHIA and get that across. And I knew I wanted to announce the salon's name and just sort of come across natural, and not too,
totally.
yeah. So it was an amazing opportunity. They were lovely, and it was really cool to be involved in that.
Oh, good for you. That's so cool. And I'd love to just go back a little bit to you being the president of ARA now, right? It's no longer HBIA.
Hair and beauty. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So can you walk us through that and how that opportunity happened for you and what it means to be in that position? And
Well, so they offer employment services. They're, it's a hair and beauty association, and that you become a member. So there's many salons that are members. So, and you ring up and you can get them. So we ring them all the time about employment, like different pay increases and because they've got the lawyer services. So it's actually a really important service for salon and salon owners. They have a lot of policy. They have, contracts on their website, things like that. So also they ran, and the main reason that I wanted to be involved, they ran the big competitions that we have in Victoria.
Competitions, yeah.
Yeah, the live. And Victoria is one of the only states that these competitions were actually really popular. So, I've been a judge for them, many years at HBIA. So we used to get over 500 entrants. So, and that was amazing to watch that competition every year. That all the top salons entered, all the little salons entered, everyone.
I've done it once.
It was this wonderful opportunity for hairdressers could go and get a start in competition hairdressing. And I felt that's where I got my start in Victoria. And I felt they were really important. So initially I sat on the board because I wanted to help with that, with the organisation of those competitions and ensure that they continued. So what happened with the HBIA, it then joined the Australian Retails Association. So now we even have more things that we can offer our members and bigger resources. So now then they said to me, will I be chair? And I agreed to do that. And they thought that I was the perfect person because obviously I'm Australian Hairdresser of the Year. And the reason I've got involved with this is I want to ensure the future of those competitions, because they actually don't make any money for the association. They run at a loss or they barely break even. But I think it's still really important to keep them continuing.
Because do you feel like those are the things that excite new hairdressers, seeing that that's what you think is really important to spark that in them in the beginning?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Apprentice Awards, like there's the perfect ponytail, which was a competition where you could just do a ponytail on a model. I looked around and I just saw the joy in all those competitors doing those ponytails, and anyone can find a model to do a ponytail. It's a long hair model, and and I just thought we are actually doing something for the youth here. That's a really positive thing. And the person that won and got second, got third, you really are igniting something and it's starting something that's really important. So yeah.
That I completely agree with you. That was the first thing that I was like, oh, well, I'll start with this because I worked at Rock Ebony for a long time. And that's something that they were so involved in. And I was like, well,
Oh, they loved it.
I can do
Yeah.
one of these at least. I can do the perfect blonde or the Insta blonde or the unicorn hair or, those things that maybe I'm not at a point where I'm ready to shoot a whole collection or, had that vision. But you're totally right that it did open that door to being like, oh, I can do one of these.
And it teaches you the skills that's required to put together a look, and I've seen that
Yeah, so
evolve,
cool.
how these competitions have evolved. So it used to be very creative based, with, like hairlines up here and shaved and cropped. But now it's really important that we have a lot of, commercial,
Yeah.
more beautiful sections. The festival hair, which is
Yeah.
basically a braiding section, and then as you said, unicorn hair, like, so there's something for everyone in these competitions. So I'm basically in this position to fight for those. I don't think they will happen this year because of the COVID, with the restrictions of the
Mm.
hotel, that they didn't
Oh,
want.
right.
We looked at it, we found it very hard to get a hotel to let us have so many people come and go. The apprentice awards hopefully will happen, and the barber and the student awards will happen this year, but hopefully we'll get the live competitions back up and running next year.
Oh, how exciting. That's so cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really wanted to hear about your position in that. So what do you think would be the thing that when you say is deterring people from entering this industry and you're having a hard time, you've had an ad up for months for an apprentice, where do you think that's coming from? Do you think that it's still people having that maybe their mom in the back of their head be like, "Oh, you have to go to university," or what do you think is happening with that?
Well, I think that we need to target the parents. It's really funny you should say that, because I
Yeah.
think the parents are the ones that are poisoning the minds of and there's a lot of expectations. Everyone wants their kid to be successful and, achieve, and,
Yeah.
and sometimes in their mind, the university track is the only way to go be a white collar professional. Well, there's lots of other ways. And, like if you look at all the tradies, not just hairdressing, but
Mhm.
plumbers, and, we're now becoming the rock stars of the
100%.
industry, because
Yeah.
we've got more flexible working hours,
Mhm.
and also we're making more money. So it's
Yeah.
just yeah.
Well, I
So
goosebumps again. I love it. I get that.
yeah,
But I have
yeah,
my partner is a tradie, and we both feel that when we say what we do for a living. I'm a hairdresser. I'm a tradie. You get that. You can't help it. That look or that, oh, like I'm like, do you know that I work 4 days a week and I make
exactly,
amazing money and I can pick my days off and I can go to work.
exactly,
I'm taking Canada Day off on Thursday. So on Thursday
exactly.
is Canada Day, and I'm like, you know what? I'm taking the day off.
And one aspect is that
Freedom.
once we leave that salon, or you know what I mean, that's it. We don't have to sit on do my husband sits and does emails all night, and I think, oh God, you know, it's
Yeah.
like who would want that commitment? But yeah, no, it's sort of definitely, I don't know, it's an amazing industry, but I think that we're getting a lot of people that don't even show up for the interviews. So
Yeah.
they ring up, they don't answer their phone, and then they finally answer their phone, and then you make an appointment, and then they don't even show up for the interviews. And it's not just our salon. I've spoken to every
Yeah.
single hairdresser I know, and they've all got the same
I
problem.
don't know a single
So
salon right now that isn't hiring and can't
yeah,
find,
well, I know. And the other thing that there's an issue is with qualified hairdressers too.
Yeah.
That I'm on a Facebook page, Hair and Beauty, and I'm just looking at them screaming. Everyone just wants good qualified hairdressers, and I'm like, I don't know. I was having this conversation last night. Does our model need to change of what it looks like? Because we're not attracting, people are all wanting to work for themselves,
Mhm.
and you can understand it financially, but
Yeah.
then if we don't have people that are willing to work for you, how are we supposed to have our businesses? Or our philosophy is we don't hire anyone we don't train.
Yeah.
So I would rather just put on 3 apprentices that are 17 and train them, so let's, rather than steal them from other salons, let's teach the young ones, and that's always been
Yeah.
our philosophy.
Well, I think that that's exactly why I know actually, that's why I wanted to start this was for them to hear that, I have this amazing life and I've been able to move around the world and the people that I've met and the friends and
Yeah.
the connections you have with your clients, all of these things is because I chose to do hairdressing. And when I went into hairdressing, I remember my granny being like, "Well, what are you going to do after that? Like, when are you going to go to
Yeah.
university after?" And I all my girlfriends went to university and I felt a little bit at that time like, oh, am I missing out? That I didn't have that experience where at home everybody moves away for uni, right? So they go and live on campus and I still stayed living at home and I worked at the salon that I was at for 8 years when I was in high school all the way out until I moved here. And I was the first one out of my friends that bought a house. I own an apartment at home.
Absolutely.
I was the
Hmm.
first one who went to Europe 3 times. I was the only one who could do that and be able to pick up and move and support myself overseas. They were all living at home with their parents and making no money out of university. And here I
And
was
having
with
a
this
massive
client.
debt, like a massive
Yes,
debt at the end of it. We actually get paid to
totally.
learn, where they have like, they're, having to give up a percentage of their wage for the next 10 years once they've actually got their degree or what have
Yeah.
you. So we get paid to learn. So, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, totally
I think that
understandable. I
was
mean,
the
look,
biggest eye opener for me when I was like looking later on, being like, I'm the smart one here. I did exactly what I loved. They aren't even working in the industry that they went to university for.
exactly. Most
Some
people
of
aren't even got the, yeah, it's so crazy.
One of my
I mean,
girlfriends was
look,
still working at a restaurant after she finished university for all that time, and she didn't like it, so she didn't get into it. And she was working at the same restaurant she worked at before and
yeah.
had no passion for it. Like, we're so lucky.
We are so lucky. And I don't know, I think that hairdressing, look, it is hard work. We all know it's hard work. And
Yeah.
it is really hard work being an apprentice
Mhm.
because, essentially, you're for the first 6 months, you're a glorified cleaner, aren't you?
Yeah,
And a tea and tidy,
totally.
let's be honest, and a hair washer,
Yeah.
and you've got to do those hard yards. But once, you start to get your own little clientele and you get on the floor and you get the joy and the excitement of pleasing people and making them look beautiful, it's all worthwhile.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well,
Yeah.
I think that that is just such an important thing that as much as we can yell it and scream it and get it out there, that they can know that I agree the evenings and weekends, if you don't love it, it's not worth it. But that's just so normal for me now. I don't even think about it. I like that I get to sleep in the morning and can go to the gym at 8 or 9 and then go to work. And I have this different lifestyle, and that the friends that you make through it too end up with your same hours, and those become your people just as much.
Absolutely. And it's like when I won this award, a lot of the lovely people that sent me flowers and messages, and a lot of them were my clients.
Yeah.
It's like great. They get more so proud and so excited for you more than anyone else. And they do become, a part of, your life, really.
And you're still doing clients on the floor. How many days are you on the floor versus do you have like admin days now that you're in
So,
ownership or
so I'm very lucky. I have there's four business partners at Weaselman. So we have all our own sort of roles. So there's two that are cutters. So David and myself are the hair cutters. So we look after the styling section. Dye Spy looks after the color section. And then I've got another business partner called Jay Daly who runs the salon. So she has
okay.
an office. And so I'm very lucky. We have a meeting once a week to discuss all the issues. So everything is discussed and voted upon and agreed upon, but she does all the wages and all the bills, and we've got also a bookkeeper that helps us. So it's like we all have our skills. I tried to do the wages once and took me 7 hours and made 100 mistakes. So I decided then and there that, my time is better spent probably teaching people and
Yeah.
doing the clients. So I'm on the floor 4 days a week, doing, I don't know, 10 to 12, 14 clients a day.
Wow.
I do one late night, and that's do a 12-hour day on a Thursday. That's a killer. As I'm
Yeah.
getting, now that I'm over 40, the 12-hour day is an absolute killer. That last client of the day is like really hard work, and it's
Oh God, I'm always like, that poor last client doesn't get anything out of me.
oh,
I'm like thinking about my dinner, what I'm gonna eat. I haven't peed all
we're
day.
hungry. I know we're hungry. We're hangry. We're just like, and they're running 10 minutes late, and it makes you really mad.
Oh
But look,
yeah.
I mean, you can't expect staff to do late nights if you don't do them. So
Yeah.
that's our philosophy. So, but it's getting harder and harder, I have to admit. Um, and there's some salons that are open till 9 every night. I don't know how they do it. I just like but I start at 9 I'm a morning person. So I
Okay.
start at 9 in the morning, and my first client's at 9, and I'd start at 8. I love it. Like I'd rather be there
Oh
and
my
then
God, you're
finish early.
opposite of me.
Yes, and then a lot of people, they can't get there. Two of my business partners can't get there before 10, half
Yeah,
past 10.
that's me.
You know,
10:30 is my
yeah,
start time every day.
10:30.
Everyone's
Yeah,
like, "But you pick your own hours. Why don't you start early?" I'm like, "No, that's perfect for me. 10:30."
that's me.
I
Yeah,
do
so we're all
10:30 to
different, aren't we?
9 3 days a week. 10:30 to
Yeah,
9, and that is a big day cuz I'm specializing in color. I have to do those big days to fit enough clients in,
people
but
it's in.
I would rather do that. And if I start any earlier, then I'm too tired by the end. So that's 10:30 is good.
And then also Saturday, we start from 8 till 5. That's a huge day. Saturday's
Yeah.
absolutely massive. But then how lucky, Sunday, Monday off. So,
Yeah. Totally. Now,
no, I
I'd
love
love
having
to
Monday
just
off.
maybe dive in. We've gone through quite a bit, but I have a little bit of this collection because I was obsessed with it. I loved it. I think it's so beautiful. I think it's so different. And when I was reading, obviously you sent me everything through, which was so nice to actually read the backstory of it. But do you think that this collection was stronger or something so different because of the year that we had, that I feel like it was like an explosion of color and really creative and intricate hair that maybe you wouldn't have had the time, or you maybe would have made the time, I don't know, that having that year off gave you more to give
Well,
to
I
this?
thought, I think my 2019 was very moody and dark, and I
Yeah.
believe that with all hairdressers, you can't do the same thing twice. And I'm like, really, well, for me personally, I never want to do the same thing twice. It'll be a variation on a look, but I'm not. I know, I'm just not going to do repeat performances of the last 2 years of work, because it's like I want to always come up with something different. So I knew that it was quite moody, my 2019, and dark, and so this year I knew this year I felt like I want to do something light and bright and happy and joyous and colorful and beautiful. And some people have said that always I have a little bit of an aggression, like with my haircuts, there's always something quite creative there. And I still had that, but the majority of them were, I wanted to be beautiful.
It
just
was.
just pretty and beautiful and colorful. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I don't color hair, but I,
Yeah.
except for one look, I colored all of the hair.
Oh,
So
really? Which
yeah,
one?
the haircut I didn't do,
Love it.
because that was a wonderful girl, Katie, who works for me, because it was obviously all bleached white and then all toned all those bright colors. It was a little bit above my technical expertise with the bleach, so the full head bleach. So I didn't do that one, but all the rest of them, those. So all the other colored pieces that I use, I colored all those. So, and I
Wow.
made
And did you
everything was made
make
out of hair.
Yeah, did you make those pieces during lockdown? Was that something that you had time to be at home doing these really intricate things, or was this something that came together after? Like, how did that this
I
year?
started it because I started it in 2020, to be honest, because I thought that I was going to be able to use it for
Yeah.
that year, and then with everything sort of cancelled, so I started it and just tapped away at it, and then I worked on the new collection that I've got coming for AHFA. I worked through that through lockdown, and I did a bit of everything. But it was funny, during lockdown, I was very unmotivated for that 4 months.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I was very unmotivated. I
I
think
think
that
that's
for the
really good for people to hear and to know that it's not, yeah, that even someone like you who has this creative mind and can be so
yeah.
into it, that you didn't feel great in that time.
No, I didn't feel great. I found it probably the hardest place I've been in my adult life. I was
Wow.
obviously stressed about the business. So what I used to do, because I'm a morning person, I'd work on it for an hour a day. So I'd get up and do it, in my pajamas at the
Yeah.
dining table, practice. I had mannequins set up at the dining table, and I'd practice, or I'd have all the hair laid out. So rather than sit, okay, today I'm going to work on my collections and do 12 hours. Well, I wasn't in the mental state for that. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather just tap away at things rather than having, like, cramming it all in doesn't work for me. So then that's sort of, and I think that's a great place to start for someone as well. Tap away, start one thing, color one piece of hair, play with
Mhm.
one thing, an hour a day, once a week, until you get a collection.
That's great advice,
So
because I
yeah.
think that you're totally right. And it is important to know. For me, I felt like I needed something to do during lockdown. There was no way. I was off a little bit longer too, because I was on a visa and I wasn't able to go to work even when the salons were open. So I just was like, if I am in this country and I can't do anything, I have no way of working. And how am I going to figure out how to take the next step? And even for you to say that you didn't feel like doing hair 24 hours a day when maybe that
No.
is where your brain usually is really important for people to know that, no matter how much you love it, you can still feel crummy.
Oh, absolutely. When I'm doing a collection, it's like the whole creative process is that you half the time you're going to hate it. And
Yeah.
that's just, and it just, you'll love it. And then you'll walk in one day and you'll see everything that you're working on the mannequin or whatever. And then you'll go, oh my God, that's terrible. And then the next day you'll go, but if I do this to it, it becomes better. So then, and another little trick that I have is that I'll watch, when I'm doing my relax time and watching something at home, I have all my work lined up looking at me on the dining table. And it's
Oh,
sometimes I'll just look at it and I'll just go, oh, I know what that needs. And that's how the sort of things evolved.
I love
So,
that. I love that about these conversations, that I get
patience, yeah,
these little
tips.
things that come out and you're like, "Oh, that is such a good thing to implement into how I do it." Oh, I love that.
And another lesson I'd like to share too is like
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that didn't make it to that collection. So,
Yeah.
you know, you need 6 photos, but really you need, I reckon, minimum of 10 to 11 looks. You
Mm,
know, and I know that's a huge ask, but because half of them, well, you know, just under half won't be any good.
yeah.
And one of the biggest lessons that some of the stuff that took me the longest, that I was most, um, you know, I was really attached to because I'd spent hours working on it, they're the ones that I cut. You know, and
Really. Yeah.
that was an ego thing that I took me a big lesson to learn. You know, just because I spent a long time on it doesn't make it good.
Yeah.
So you know, and then so yeah, and that's how basically I work. And I always think, well, I was just talking to Leanne Cutler before this. She's working on my submission for AHFA, and it's about you know, I think where was I going with that? Sorry, I just had like a moment there
No,
for a
it's okay
second.
that so many of the pieces
Ah!
don't make the cut, and that something
Oh
that you
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to share was that what you spent the most time
Oh,
on, your ego.
I believe, yeah. So, and also I believe with any person doing a collection, you need to show your skills. So
Mm,
I say this to anyone that wants to learn. So show your skills, show not just, you know, like I think it would be very hard for this moment in time for a collection of 6 haircuts to win.
mm,
I'm not, we're not seeing it overseas and we're not seeing it in Australia. Yet I still think that you need some haircuts in your collection. So, you know, but you need to show that you can style hair as well as cut hair. So why not show as many skills as possible? Why not show you can style hair, color hair, cut hair, you know, and then try and get the best of all your, you know, abilities. And I believe that that's my own formula, but, you know, showing as many skills as possible. But
yeah.
I believe that if you look at any good collection or any successful collection from anywhere in the world, you'll see that it's not one thing repeated. It's like a little bit of everything of skills.
And do you find that a lot that you're looking at a lot from international stuff, like really seeing what's going on over there because of our seasons being different here? Like that's something I've had to really adjust to in my move and
Yeah,
stuff that we're opposite
we're
over here.
behind. We're behind.
I mean, I wasn't
Um,
gonna say it, but
Absolutely. I'm like such
yeah,
a stalker. My whole Instagram is just hair, you know, like I'm stalking everyone, you know, what they're doing at all times. You know, Angelo Seminari,
mm,
Errol Douglas, Eugene Solomon, you know, all the top people, Guido, of course, everything that he puts up on Instagram. He does a show over in Milan and an hour later, all the hair is on Instagram. So, you know, and as I say to people, try not to copy, but be
yeah.
inspired by.
Yeah, love it. Well, I find you very inspiring, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
you sharing your time with us. And yeah, I think it's such a big thing. I really wanted to capture the moment and get you as soon as possible after your win so that it was fresh in your mind and to get people while they're paying attention and watching to get listening and hearing. I think it's just really important to hear the background and all the work that goes into it, and the little tips that you have will be so helpful to somebody making that decision and knowing where to navigate through to get to that point.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's like been a crazy ride. And, you know, one thing that stays with me in my head is that Andrew Toole has said to me along the whole way in the whole journey, is that he can only shoot what you bring him. So if you are going to do a collection, just remember that he, you know, any photographer, no matter what price range, or if you're just starting out or you're a season, he can only, you know, that photographer, good male or female, can only shoot what you bring them. So,
Yeah.
you know, having that preparation and being prepared and, you know, having lots of options, it really ensures for really a successful shoot.
Yeah, you're so right. If you go in with only exactly what you have and then that look doesn't pick up on camera the way you want or the model
Then you've
can't,
got weak, yeah,
what are you
exactly.
supposed to do? And you,
You've got
yeah,
weak links. And the
totally
whole thing with collections to lessen the weak links. So the less weak links that you have, the better chance that you've got.
love it. Well, I
Yeah.
think that that's perfect. We're right on time, and I can hear the hammering starting next door. I don't know if you can
That
hear it,
will.
but it's like
Thank
a
you,
funny
Crystal, for
construction site.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I think that you're
Well,
doing a
thank
really
you.
important thing. And I really hope that it takes off and you get all the
Thank
success that you
you.
deserve because it's really important. And just your enthusiasm for the industry and you know, you like me, you know, we've got to practice what we preach and we've got to try and make this industry, you know, better and attract people. And yeah, so it's been great to be involved. And I thank
Well,
you so
thank you.
much.
I appreciate you willing to give your time to me. And hey, we'll thank Virgin Australia for putting us together on that flight. That was
Yeah.
the best. I owe you a wine. You got me a wine.
Yeah.
I owe you one.
Yeah. Done. I'll take you up on that offer.
All right. Have an amazing day.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Successful Stylist Unfoiled. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube to get all the notifications of our weekly episodes.